Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the regular town council meeting in the green room on Wednesday, April the 2nd. Let's begin with a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2, are there any visitors who wish to speak? Nope. All right, number 3, the approval of minutes, March 19th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Item number 4, appointments. We'll begin with the Town Manager Evaluation Subcommittee appointment. We're looking for 2 or
2.
possibly 3.
Yes, however many you'd like.
2 or 3 people who would join the subcommittee. I would certainly like to recommend Chris Basante, who has wanted to evaluate a town manager for as long as I can remember. He is not here, but I think that's okay. Anyone else interested?
No, I would like to push Mike into that arena.
Yeah, I'd be
Mike?
interested, yeah.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Are we keeping it at 2 or 3? 2? Going?
This works.
Good?
Okay.
Okay, great. So Mike and Chris Basante will be on the subcommittee. The next is a town council representative to the Henry Carter Hall Library Building Committee.
I'll do it.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Do we need a motion for that? No.
It's an appointment.
we're good. Okay.
Good?
Are we good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Item number 5, the building department and the police department are here to update. We'll begin with Richard or the chief, whoever would like to go first. Okay.
No, I passed out copies for everybody. Yep.
Oh, he's at the police. Okay.
All right. All right, so obviously the first page is a glorified image of me. So now you know who I am. So you can kind of read through it pretty quick, but basically what we do is we receive all the building permit applications, and then we direct it to whether it's got to go to planning, health, and then it comes back. Process is pretty much the same, a little more involved on some of the commercial because of some of the requirements, but our job is basically to monitor all the building activities in town, make sure everything happens the way it should, be safe. So Lisa is basically the building clerk. She's the first point of contact. 90% of the time, somebody calls in, they'll go to Lisa first, and then Lisa will answer questions, and then she'll direct it over to zoning, health, planning, and then eventually it comes back to us. Permit process is pretty much spelled out. You guys, I don't know if you got a chance to look at this earlier. I was going to do it up on the screen, but anyway. The graph at the end there, building trends. I had to update it a little bit. So So, single-family homes, we did 17, this is year-to-date, this year compared to last year. So we got 17 single families, 4 duplexes, and 1 three-family. Additions, 15, 1 swimming pool this year, above ground, 4 in-ground pools, 60 solars, which is actually down from the year before. Demolitions are up because they're tearing down houses down on Shore Road and putting up little mega mansions. So the total trade permits so far this year, almost 600. Construction values, I tried to do a comparison on the end. I had to update it, but basically we're about 19% ahead of last year, year-to-date. So which is better than I thought. I thought we were going to be flat, but we've had we're running almost 20% ahead year-to-date, and we still got 4 months left. So something's happening, I don't know what.
That 20%, is that residential or commercial? Do you know the mix?
That's a combination residential, commercial. It went up a little bit because the CARES Act came in, and that's a little over $1 million. But it's just, building is up. I don't know if it's the cost of materials, cost of labor, what's driving it, but the valuations are up. I mean, we've added $21 million in valuation to buildings in town so far this year. Any questions on any of that, or?
So the permit process, how would you assess the process? Is it smooth or is there any bumps?
It's a lot smoother now. We've worked out some of the bugs in the permitting software. You know, we've tweaked some of our forms and made it easier because we can do that in-house.
Compliance, when you tell people they got to do it, if you find it?
Most of the time, it's pretty good. I've got 1 or 2 I have to chase down this year. I've got a swimming pool that doesn't have a fence, and the guy's not responding, so the next step is actually putting an arrest warrant out for him. And usually that gets pretty quick compliance at that point. But for the most part, you know, I drive around, I see something, because I see everything when I'm out there. And usually if I stop and tell somebody you need a permit, they're pretty quick on getting it done.
You know, that 22 million of construction or 23 million of construction, is that mostly additions to existing homes, or do you see any new construction?
There's about 15 new houses. So there is new construction.
There seems to be a demand for it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Abby yesterday said we've got a couple other things possibly coming up, more apartments. So, yeah, it's coming.
Any other questions?
I just have one brief
Sure.
one, and it could be brief. Could you slightly just explain what this grandfathering clause? I'll tell you why, because I've had a couple of residents come to me, and they were concerned, and because of the fact that people got away with building something, and they said, well, it was grandfathered. How long does grandfathering go back, and do people take in consideration our present needs, or should I say restrictions? In other words, if we're saying now that we're worried about water pollution and safety of sanitation and stuff like that, how can we allow somebody to then grandfather something way back that?
So technically, there's no such thing as grandfathering anything in. It really doesn't exist. It's a term people have used for years. From a zoning standpoint, once it hits 3 years, zoning doesn't look at it, but building still looks at it. Zoning has a time limit by state statute that they can only go back 3 years, I believe. Abby or Kathy could speak better on that. From a building standpoint, it's not grandfathered, it's just basically non-conforming, non-complying when it was built. It doesn't meet today's standards. but it may have met the standards back then. So some stuff is just left as it is, but if they went to rebuild it, chances are they wouldn't be able to rebuild it today.
So on a renovation, would they have to meet current code compliance?
Yeah, it would have to meet current code.
This is actually new construction.
So if it's new construction, it has to meet today's codes,
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
And it would hit zoning. A lot of the ones we run into are when they want to renovate down on the shoreline, and they're already in the setbacks. And so they're non-conforming to begin with. So they end up in front of ZBA when they want to add a second story on or something, because you're making something that's non-conforming more non-conforming. And so they look at it and decide whether they're going to allow it or not.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for having us here. Rich was kind enough to advance to our first slide, so once again, just a demonstration of the cooperation between town departments. I think that wasn't planned, but it just worked out that way. So when we were asked to come here this morning and give you a little bit about the police department, I wasn't quite sure what, I didn't want to drown you with stats and statistics, but I thought that even though I feel we're very forward-facing as an agency, I thought we'd just kind of quickly go over who we are and what we do, because I think that's important, and we understand it because we live it every day, but I think it's important to kind of just put it out there in the public eye just to let everybody know who we are. So on the screen in front of you is our mission statement, our vision statement, and our core values, which are reinforced every single day in the police department. I think the key thing of leadership is to understand that to have an organization accomplish anything, everyone has to be rowing in the same direction. Everybody has to understand what we're doing there. And that can be very difficult and very confusing, especially in law enforcement, because a lot of times you're out patrolling, doing your own thing on your own. You're representing the agency, but you still have a lot of autonomy to go do the things that you think are important. So we're constantly reiterating our mission. Everything that we do in the police department comes down to answering the same question: is the decision I'm making Clinton safer? So whatever it is that I'm doing, it all goes to that, right? Very simply, that's where we want to head. Our vision statement: in a perfect world, that's where we want to be, right? So we want to adapt to the needs of our ever-changing community while continuously providing the highest levels of service. We remain committed to fair and equitable policing while we're continually maintaining and building on the bonds of trust and partnership with the public that we serve. We strive to implement proactive, effective programs to help improve the overall quality of life here in Clinton. We hold ourselves accountable to our core values at all times, and we operate to the highest ethical standards. Finally, we strive to be the benchmark of excellence for others to follow, which I think we've been cutting a pretty large swath. We have a large footprint for a very small 27-man department. We have a very large footprint in the state of Connecticut. Our core values, we call it your ship for a reason: service, honor, integrity, and professionalism. If you come to our building, you see that everywhere. It's reiterated in our award ceremonies. It's in our interdepartmental emails. It's on the bottom of our emails. It's on the bottom of our cards. That's who we strive to be. Our cardinal rules were established early on when I got here in 2016, and these are, I tell everybody as we come into the police department, you can get into whatever it is, and we can probably come to some kind of a workout or some kind of an agreement, but these are cardinal rules. We don't break them for anybody, because this is who we are as an agency. So first and foremost, treat everyone with professionalism, courtesy, and respect. Always be truthful and sincere, and then always put forth your best honest efforts in the performance of your duties. We don't bend on that. If you don't do that, we have a serious problem. So that's what we try and instill in every single one of our officers and our staff. Speaking of department staffing, I hear it quite often when I'm out in the community: what the hell do you need 27 people for? God almighty, we're in a small little town. Yes, we have 27 officers. They don't work all the time. We do have to go home, go to sleep, have families, have some time off, whatever. So I think it's very deceiving, and a lot of people don't understand that we are a 24/7 operation. So normally what I try to explain to people is, in your office, if you have 5 people, then somebody's out, you work with 4. but you're only working 40 hours a week. You're working one shift a week. So for your 5 people in the office, that immediately means to me 15, right? Because I have to have those people for 3 shifts plus an extra 2 days, so it's actually more than that. It's about 17 and a half per 5. We work 3 shifts, 7 to 3. That's a 3-officer minimum. Okay, so it's not a lot of officers on the road. Evening shift is 4-officer minimum, and midnights is 3-officer minimum. And those are really as about as bare bones as we can get for safety, not only the safety of our officers, but the safety of the public. We're quickly overwhelmed with any kind of incident because we don't have a lot of manpower out on the road. We have 7 full-time and 1 part-time emergency communications dispatchers. They work the same rotational shifts. There's 2 dispatchers on the day shift, 2 dispatchers on the evening shift, and 2 on nights. We've got 2 clerical people, my full-time assistant, and 1 full-time record clerk, and 1 part-time records clerk, and we have 1 municipal animal control officer, and 1 part-time school crossing guard, which works at the middle school. Our department structure is broken down like every other department across the country, pretty simple. Operations Division, which is commanded by Captain Kane, and the Administrative Services Division, commanded by Captain Jacober. Basically, the Operations Division is responsible for delivery of all law enforcement services to the community. So patrol is the heartbeat of any police department. When anybody thinks about a police department, they think about the patrol division. But there's a lot more behind the scenes that go on, not only to support patrol, but to do the patrol function. So patrol obviously is our largest bulk of officers. They're riding around in the black and whites. When you call 911 or you call for service, those are the guys that are rolling up to your house for the most part. The investigative section may come afterwards, but for the most part, it's going to be patrol. They're out there doing motor vehicle stops, checking alarms. And we also roll to every single medical call in town. So that's another huge draw for public safety that everyone should know. Patrol is broken down into the Marine Patrol, Bicycle Patrol, K-9, and also emergency communications falls under Captain Kane's purview as I realign that because it's really more of a service. It's a point of contact for service. So we moved that out of administrative services and put it into Operations Division. We have an investigative section, which is very small. Unfortunately, we don't have enough bodies in there to cover the amount of investigations that need to be done. It's headed by 1 sergeant, the youth officer who's a corporal, and we have 1 rotational position of a patrol officer that sits in there for 2 years at a time to try and understand all that's involved in investigations. Administrative Services Division, the biggest thing he has to do now is training and certification. The state of Connecticut has lots of mandates on training, lots of mandated training each and every cycle of your certification, which is once every 3 years. He also oversees the Records Department, Property and Evidence, acts as the court liaison. He oversees animal control, fleet management, building facilities, and security. Activity, again, I think we punch above our weight class a lot. We only have 27 sworn officers, and you see our bare minimums. For the police side, we are the designated first responders for the town of Clinton, which means that we roll to every single medical call. So every time there's a medical call that comes in at 911, one of our officers is dispatched, and we get there and try and stabilize the patient until our good partners in the fire department and EMS come, and especially if it's more advanced, to either transport, stabilize, or give assistance. So there's a large, and I'm sure Mike will tell you, that's a huge number of calls for service. Probably the largest number of calls for service in the entire town are medical calls for service. We average between 13,000 and 15,000 calls for service annually. In 2024, we logged 14,400 calls for service. Currently, we're at 5,300 calls for service, and this is April 2nd, so we're probably going to surpass that. We'll be up over, I'm guessing, about 16,000 calls for service this year, which is a heavy workload for a small department. We have 12 community service programs. 9 of those are funded through our community partnerships. So they're not a strain on the municipal budget, but we feel that it really helps us advance our mission of making Clinton safer and being proactive in trying to stop crimes before they occur. On the emergency communication side, that ECC is the PSAP, which is the Public Safety Answering Point, and that's the state designated point where when you call 911 within this area, whether it's a cell phone, regular phone, landline phone, it all gets directed into that one communication center. So in 2023-24, they answered almost 3,900 911 calls, and 97% of those calls were all answered in under 10 seconds. So traditionally, our ECC gets very high marks. They're usually, 1 or 2 in the state as far as responsiveness to answering the call. So when you call 911, there is a very solid chance that they're going to pick up within 1 or 2 rings. And they really work hard at that. Outside of that, they had 33,511 non-emergency calls. So if you're thinking about 2 people answering phones over the course of a year, I mean, 30, that's a huge number. And they could last for 5 seconds, they could last for 15 minutes, depending. And I will tell you that we do get a lot of people that have a lot of issues, and they're calling and they're trying to get it worked out with our dispatchers, so they have a heavy caseload, and they do a good job of navigating and trying to get people either pointed in the right direction or provided with the proper information. So they also have to log all of our dispatches of all emergency services and make sure that that is in our CAD so we can track it and have a permanent record of where our services are being sent. They're also trained as emergency medical dispatchers, so while our officers are responding to the scene, our dispatchers can either talk the person who's having a medical emergency through proper steps, or the person that's calling about someone who's maybe unconscious, how to revive them, how to give CPR, so they can provide emergency medical.
Chief, how many people are on the phones at all time? 1, 2?
2 during the day, 1 during midnight shift. So 2 days, 2 evenings, and 1 midnight. So, well, what happens is usually when you get a call, or if you get an accident, we get an accident, like a big accident here in town, the phones are ringing off the hook because everybody's calling. So once the person's answering the phone, the other dispatcher is trying to send all the equipment. They have to send police, they have to send fire, they have to send EMS. So it gets very chaotic to handle that. But as you all know, we are accredited through CALEA. We have advanced law enforcement accreditation, which is CALEA's highest standard of law enforcement accreditation. There are 436 standards that we have to comply with. They are reviewed every single year, and once every 4 years of that cycle, we have an on-site assessment, and we have to go in front of the commission to ensure that we've met all the standards and we've been in compliance for the 4-year period to be reassessed and re-upped for another 4-year period. So again, it was a huge lift for us, but I think it demonstrates our commitment to professionalism. This is a voluntary process, unlike the state process, but it's far more stringent. We also are Tier 3 accredited with the state of Connecticut, and we received that designation. It's almost perfunctory, unfortunately, for us because we're recognized as advanced law enforcement for CALEA, so there's only 18 standards that we must comply with for the state of Connecticut's highest tier, because even the state of Connecticut recognizes that CALEA is a much more stringent process. So so long as we maintain the CALEA certification, this is almost perfunctory. So, but we have it. So we're dual accredited. I just want to also just point out that the Police Accountability Act of 2020 was very difficult for all of us in law enforcement here in the state of Connecticut. There was a lot of unfunded mandates that came down through the state legislature, mandatory body-worn cameras and in-car video systems, which the state really didn't provide any funding for. There was only $4 million carved out for that. Luckily, we got a good piece of that because I was able to move quickly and get some of that money, but over $1 million of the 4 was already carved out for the state police. So it left 3 for everybody else to fight over. And a small system like ours ran almost $500,000, and you can see how quickly that went. Also, they demanded accreditation. For the longest time, it was unsure as whether they were going to make everybody do CALEA accreditation, but there was enough pushback from the CPCA who thought it was far too demanding, and they just decided that you needed to be state accredited at the Tier 1 level, which is very basic, and that is the drop dead date for that was June 2025. So if you weren't done by 2025, you were going to be in trouble. Lastly, drug testing and psychological testing to maintain your state certifications, which are every 3 years. Those are very costly as well. So there's a lot of unseen costs. I mean, I think these are fine things, and you probably wouldn't have had a lot of pushback from any of the chiefs, if they had come to us and kind of talked to us and talked about implementing these things. I think a lot of these things are wise. We want to test our officers. We want to make sure our officers are mentally fit and mentally well, but the way it was packaged was kind of punitive, so it got a lot of pushback, and it was a little bit difficult for us. But just to point that out, that we are fully compliant, and we've been fully compliant, far ahead of all the deadlines mandated by the state, and we usually exceed whatever the mandates are. So we're fully compliant and accountable. We also are continually recognized. I think if you follow us on Facebook or any of our social media accounts, or you follow any of the media out there, we're continually recognized for our service by various organizations throughout New England and the state. We've received 3 different community policing awards from 3 different United States attorneys in the District of Connecticut. We just received the 2023 award, which we didn't get till 2024. Actually, didn't get the award till 2025. But for New England's community policing, we won first place, unanimously chosen first place for our community policing efforts in communities under 15,000 people. That's all throughout New England. Innovation in leadership from the FBI. KERMA's also cited us back in 2020 for a reduction of loss of work time and management of risk by reducing risk in our department by 87.5%. CPCA, we've had 3 awards for our officer wellness initiatives. Special Olympics, we've raised over $45,000 for them in the past 3 years. So we are engaged in the community, and we do get recognized for it. Some of the challenges we're looking at moving forward, obviously recruitment and retention of officers is a national crisis, and if you watch the news, you can see that it's not the same. I came on this job on September 11th of 1989, and back then, this job really, if you got a job as a police officer, was tantamount to winning the lottery. There would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applicants for one slot, and the hiring process would take upwards of 2 years. The state police process took 2 years at that point in time to get through all the candidates to get to hire a class. We are part of the South Central region, so that is the 23 police agencies in the greater New Haven area, and we give a test for all those agencies to participate in. Our last test, we garnered 23 total applications. And it's a very stringent process, so probably no one's going to get through that. So we're seeing some challenges out there. Some of the things that we think affect that, staffing levels and workload, salary and benefits, professional reputation, and effectively leveraging available technologies. I think we've done a very good job at that. We have been pretty much full staffed throughout this whole crisis. We've been able to attract good people. And we've been able to maintain them for the most part. We've had a couple people that have departed, but I don't think that was going to happen in the course of normal employment anyway. The next challenge we have is mentoring our next generation of departmental leaders. We have a very young police force now, and with the retirement of Sergeant Popovich on Monday, I am now the oldest guy in the police department, so I really am the old man. I know in the Navy they call the captain the old man, but I guess now I'm the old man. I'm not liking that position. I was never one before. I came out at 22 years old. I was always the young punk. Now I'm the old man. But only 7 members of the department have more than 12 years of service. So in this job, that's not much. We would say for the most part, until you had 5 or 6 years on, you don't even know which direction you're headed. So we're very invested in making sure that we are mentoring these individuals. I think we have great talent. We have a great core of young officers who are doing this job for the right reason. They want to help, they're concerned, they're caring, they're compassionate, they're smart. They just don't have the experience. And that's where we got to really try and set the guardrails for them to make sure that we keep them going in the right direction. So the last thing that we're looking at is obviously meeting the needs of the community with the limited resources we have. There was a big push after the George Floyd situation to defund the police and get rid of police, but our phones kept ringing, and they kept ringing, and they kept ringing, and they ring with every single problem that you could ever imagine. So the community still expects when they pick up the phone and they call the police that we're going to have a black and white in their driveway within 30 seconds of them hanging up the phone. So we feel that we try to provide the best service we can, so we're always looking at ways to try and meet the demands of the community and provide the best service that we can. The one thing that we do see moving forward is hopefully we'll be able to increase staffing in the future. I know that we're growing a grand total list, so that's a helpful start. But we're trying to leverage technologies now to implement, to offset some of this lack of actual staffing. So if we feel that if we can implement technology to expand our operational platforms, that's the best thing that we can do at this point in time to continue to provide service or try and improve the service that we're improving to the Clinton community. So with that being said, one of our initiatives is installation of flock cameras and LPR cameras, which are license plate reader cameras. And we've already seen some success with that at Clinton Crossing, and we've got a grant from the state, which allowed us to get 7 more cameras and have them up and running for 2 years. Captain Kane secured that for us from the state of Connecticut. And I'm going to have him come up and just kind of demonstrate some of the uses of technology, just very, very briefly, just to show you what we're talking about and how we feel it's going to help us provide better service and safety to the Clinton community. So,
Chief, before you go, just one question on your presentation.
yes, sir.
First of all, you're doing a great job. You know, I've said it to you before, but living in this town for 50 years, I've seen police forces come through, especially with kids and being part of the community. I've seen it, the police have a very negative connotation at times, and right now, that's not the case. You're very supportive. You do your job, you keep everyone safe, but it's, a sense of community involvement, so thanks for that. But my question is, you mentioned Clinton Crossing. You mentioned in the beginning of your presentation, you hear out in the community, why do you need so many police? And a lot of times that's followed up, and you did a great job of explaining that. That's usually followed up with, well, we need such a big police force because we have Clinton Crossings, and there's tons of crime and shoplifting that happen up there. So my question is do you spend a lot of your time up there at Clinton Crossings? And secondly, following up on that, what do you spend most of your time? Is it traffic stops? Is it domestic disputes? What is the most?
So we do spend a lot of time at Clinton Crossing, Chris, to answer your question. Obviously, that is a large retail outlet, and it is directly off the highway, so that draws a continual crowd. And we say, our problem is that, we have a large force for a population of 15,000, but we're normally policing 30,000 a day because that continually draws in upwards of 4 million people a year. And when you have a closed community, say we lived out in the middle of Connecticut somewhere and we weren't off a highway, pretty much if you're doing your job, you know who's committing the crimes. And when we find these people who are committing the crimes, we arrest them, they go away, and then crime drops till they come back out again, and then we go back and find them. However, when we have a situation like this where you have a large retail outlet that is right off the highway, that's a continual thing. We can arrest people every single day, and there's a fresh crop coming in every single day. So that mill never stops. So that's it creates a statistical anomaly for us in that we wouldn't have that in a sitting population. Because that's such a high turnover area, it creates higher crime statistics for us. Because if we remove that, our crime statistics would be extremely low. But that being said, that's not the majority of it because we run 3, 4, and 3 basically as our shifts all the time. A great portion of our time is spent running on medical calls, running on calls for service. So the majority of our time is calls for service. We've increased our motor vehicle enforcement a lot under Captain Kane, trying to get that back up post-COVID. But that is where calls for service are the majority of everything, and that's neighbor disputes, medical calls. We do a lot of investigations. The patrol does the initial identity theft, fraud cases. We don't see a lot of breaking and entering anymore. The burglaries and those kind of crimes. We still see the car entries, which, knock on wood, we've knocked that down quite a bit. But the traditional burglary, where the burglar will break in your house, steal your TV, steal your silverware, steal all that stuff, is gone now. Everybody is online, and the crimes are crimes of fraud and identity theft and compromising your personal information. If burglars are breaking into your house, they're going right to the medicine cabinet and going for the opioids. That's the only reason they're going to break in your house. So those kinds of crimes have really diminished, and that's why I think, we need to look at services spent, and I need more investigators, because that's a bulk of the crime that we don't have enough manpower to put on that we should. But that's not what people want. When people would say, well, we gave you 3 more cops, I want to see more black and whites on the street, I want to see more red and blue lights pulling cars over. And that's the mindset, but the world has changed. The world has changed in the cyber world, and we really need to pay more attention, because we're seeing so many of our victims, which are really our senior citizens, losing their life savings, losing large chunks of money to all these fraud schemes and account takeovers and theft of their personal information. And I think that's an area that really we need to concentrate on.
So do you have training for officers on that type of crime?
Yes. So we train everybody, and basically we are, and this is why we lost our Hartford officer. We took in an officer from Hartford as a lateral transfer, and she lasted about 10 weeks because she couldn't handle the workload. I guess, you could just stay in your silo in a large department, but everybody here is expected to know everything. So you take the complaint, you do the initial investigation, you start following up on it. If you have to arrest somebody, you arrest them, you process them, and you do all the reports. So each one of our officers is trained to do that. If we need more investigation, that's where our investigative team comes in, does more high-level things, where we have to, partner up with the FBI or other agencies, the state police, other local police agencies. But for the most part, that's where we are.
So if a call comes in and it's an older person and somebody stole $30,000 from them, how does that get handled?
So basically, they would make the complaint. Whoever's on shift, a patrol officer would be assigned. They know the questions to ask. We start developing all that data. If they can follow up on some of it, they will. If they can't follow it out far enough, then it gets transferred over to the investigative section and assigned to a detective who will then follow up. Unfortunately, the problem is with all these frauds, they're basically offshore. So if we don't get it quick enough, sometimes we can get to the Secret Service and they can put a freeze on those assets, but a lot of times a good portion of that money is lost. Luckily, we've got a good reputation with the community, so they've been coming in. Because my problem when I worked at my old agency in Lower Fairfield County, we were a very wealthy agency. They'd lose lots of money, and they wouldn't come because they were embarrassed. And I always tried to say, hey, don't be embarrassed. You're a victim of crime. These are sophisticated crimes. Don't be embarrassed and come. So a lot of these things now they're telling people to send cash. So a lot of times we can stop some of our victims from sending the money because it's cash. They'll come to us first, and we're like, whoa, okay. And it still takes a lot to talk them down, because they want to send the money, right? They really do, and that's how sophisticated it is. It's social engineering that these crimes are, how they're committed. So they're very sophisticated crimes.
Is there a special office like at the state police level or the FBI in New Haven that deal with that kind of?
So there's IC3, which is the Internet Crimes Clearinghouse, and that's where everything gets directed there. And federal agencies have a much higher bar. We've developed a really good relationship with FBI New Haven. However, they're not going to send a lot of resources to, $50,000 loss. I mean, it's a lot, or $10,000 loss. That's a lot for the victim, but in the grand scheme of the federal system, we have to string together a couple more to show a pattern, to say this is a pattern, it's the same person, and can you investigate that rather than in the singular.
They're good at freezing accounts and having those wallets when it's like cryptocurrency to be able to grab that money back before it's gone. But
Your questions?
Yep, thank you.
Good. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to show you guys this awesome technology that we have here at Clinton. These LPR systems, just so you can kind of see where we're placing them and why we're placing them. You guys were asking questions about the Clinton crossings. We obviously have a LPR going in the entrance into Clinton crossings and the exit coming out. This area is very busy for us, so when we secured this money, we deployed another LPR camera here on 81, so when you get off the exit ramp and you're traveling north on 81, there is a fixed LPR that'll catch license plates. We also got a pan tilt zoom camera here, 360-degree view that can be viewed in live real time from our dispatch center. So if there's a crime committed, they could, spin that camera around and see pretty much anything all the way up 81 in either direction. This is another LPR, fixed LPR going south on 81, so anybody getting off the ramp and heading south, or anybody coming through here, that will capture the license plates.
So the LPR stands for license plate reader, and as a car drives by, it picks it up and it automatically runs it through a database?
We'll run it through for whatever alerts we set up the system to have, so stolen vehicle, stolen plate, sex offender. There's a huge list, and you decide which ones you want to have checked off to alert you when that vehicle passes through. If another agency had a homicide that occurred and they hurry up and put it into their system, it'll be on ours and alert us, hey, homicide suspect, kidnapping suspect just came into your town or hit one of your LPRs.
So in the town of Clinton, those are the only 3 LPRs, none down on Route 1?
Oh, no, I'm going to show you right now. Down here, so if you're heading south on 81, and you come down through Hull Street into Route 1, we have these 2 going either direction. So right in the center of town, either way you come through, these vehicles should be captured on LPR. On your westernmost area coming in from Madison, we're having one right in front of the old Friendlies here. So if you're coming down North High Street, heading east, you'll have an LPR here, and then you'll have one in front of the police station. If you're coming in from Westbrook, you'll have another one facing this way. And the last location we put all the way up on the top of 81, as you come in from Killingworth, you'll have one facing south. Now those are just the LPR assets that we have. You saw the one camera that we talked about that's in Route 81. We also, with this system, purchased something called Flock OS. This is Flock Safety is the name of the company. Flock operating system is going to capture video feeds from wherever we can pull video feeds in from. The town has, I think, 500 or so milestone video cameras throughout the town. We're going to capture about 100 of those. We paid for 100 feeds, so we'll have the town beach, the town dock, all the schools on the outdoor exterior buildings, wherever, town hall, the fire department, wherever there are exterior cameras, they'll all be fed into this Flock OS system. We also paid for 4, go ahead.
So you said like there's one down the beach, so that's our own camera. It feeds into the Flock OS. So if there's a homicide suspect on a list from some other town and the Flock, and that other camera picks it up?
So it's just a camera, it's not a license plate reader. So the system is gonna, on our map, you'll see every one of our assets of LPRs. So what happens is, say the homicide suspect hits one of the LPRs, it'll alert us to which cameras are in that area to let us know which cameras we could go to actually watch a live feed of what's happening. We could also go back in history 30 days to see that video as well. So in addition to the 100 feeds in the milestone, we purchased 4 gateway boxes that we get partners in the town that will agree to let us hook the box into their CCTV systems. So on the map, right now, currently, we have the Shell gas station, where am I? Right here. This Shell gas station here on Route 1 is going to give us their feed. On Grove Street over here, the Exxon station, we believe we're going to get their feed as well. And the Shell station up on 81 will have their exterior cameras. So whichever cameras are facing out into the road, our dispatch, our investigators, myself during the day, I could have this feed up on my laptop and be observing cameras all over town to be able to, hear a crime being committed, go to the cameras, try to help dispatch people
So
appropriately.
somebody at the Shell station calls in and says, hey, I'm being robbed, you could switch right over to the camera.
We could watch their cameras real time. So, I mean, it's a huge technology boost to the town to make the town a lot safer. God forbid we have a kidnapping or something that happens, we'll have, camera feeds that we can go to right away. The big thing, the big reason that I think it's great that we went to Flock is the state is now signed a contract with Flock. They have intentions to put Flock LPRs at every single exit in the entire state. They're looking to buy thousands of Flock cameras. So if there were, a bad actor coming this way, we would know they're on their way to Clinton.
So I should buy stock in Flock.
I mean, if you look at the Flock map, they really are taking over technology. They have other technologies. They have drone as first responder. It's like a refrigerator box that sits in your police department and launches a drone on its own and goes out to whichever area of town had a crime committed, and it'll send a drone on its own. You don't need like a drone operator sitting out there watching it. You can go out into the ocean and, for a boat accident or something. So they have all kinds of new technologies that they're implementing, so. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
All right, appreciate your time.
Very informative.
Thank you, Captain.
Okay. So item number 6 is the energy purchasing program, and Brendan Kearney is here to speak with us.
So just to give everyone a little background, so Titan Energy, Brendan will tell you a little bit about it, but we will be, we've been with an agreement with them since 2000, I believe it was 2012. It gets renewed, I believe, annually, and they seek out the best price for us for energy, for electricity. So Brandon will tell us a little bit more about that.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to pull up the pricing because I refreshed the pricing yesterday. I'll get into that, but essentially when we provide pricing, it's good for that day. And so I just want to make sure that, I know we included the original quotes in the agenda, but I just want to make sure we're looking at the most recent. It hasn't moved much, but it has moved slightly. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I am Brendan Kearney, and I am essentially the facilitator of the CCM Energy Purchasing Program, which, you know, the CCM is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. They enacted this energy purchasing program as a way to, as a member benefit to member towns, municipalities, which include 168 out of 169 towns in Connecticut. They developed this program a long time ago, but back in 2018, they put out an RFP to have a new consultant come in to manage the program. And in 2018, Titan Energy, the company that I work for, won that bid, and that was for a 5-year term, which expired in 2023, but then they elected to renew our contract for 5 more years. So we are still the facilitator of the program, and that is why I'm here today, to talk to you guys at the town of Clinton about a renewal agreement, which your current agreement expires in May next month. And so we've been monitoring the market for the last few months, and we believe your best option is to renew now, and we are recommending a longer-term agreement. Essentially, as you can see on the screen here, your current supply rate for all town accounts is 0.10089, and all the pricing that I would recommend is slightly lower. It's not, budget saving reductions, but we're looking at these 30 or 36-month agreements. This is simply because the market is actually in a good spot, and it's a hard discussion where energy costs are actually in a low position right now. But because of a lot of other ancillary fees and tariffs and components that actually make up your kilowatt hour price, that 10.89 you're paying right now, only a percentage of that is the actual energy. There's a lot of other requirements, ISO New England related, Connecticut state regulated, that make up that rate. And as a result of a lot of changing demand side fee adjustments, the old pricing we used to receive, you could occasionally see pricing in the 7, 8 cent range. It's going to be a lot harder to come by now, even if energy is trading low, which it is now. So I'm just mentioning that as kind of an adjustment in our minds collectively as to what energy prices will look like in the state of Connecticut moving forward. In Connecticut, as you likely know, much of our energy, electricity generation comes from natural gas production, or generating facilities, so we really follow natural gas pricing closely. Natural gas pricing is pretty good right now, relatively speaking. As you also may know, the Northeast doesn't really have enough pipeline capacity to get the gas we need up to here to both, especially in the wintertime, to heat our homes and also generate our electricity. So we rely on liquefied natural gas coming from elsewhere to be shipped to, comes in Boston and some other areas, and then transported to our local facilities that then heat the gas back up so it's no longer liquefied and it can be used. This has created very high energy prices in the Northeast in general, and this was exacerbated by the situation in Ukraine, where now much of Europe is no longer buying natural gas cheaply from Russia through those pipelines that you hear on the news every day. So now they are signing long-term liquefied natural gas agreements with American producers. So what that means is we, especially in the Northeast, it's not as common in other areas of the country where they have direct pipeline access and don't have to rely on liquefied natural gas. We're in competition with a lot more people to buy that gas now. We know what that does for price. So this is our new normal. And I mentioned those long-term energy contracts that are signed by Germany, Spain, and other countries in Europe. That means that it's not going to go away. It's not going to be a short-term issue, even if Russia leaves Ukraine and everyone says, kumbaya and everything's okay. They still have long-term agreements that they're going to buy their liquefied natural gas from America. And that's just going to drive our prices up. Until more pipeline capacity is built, bringing that natural gas into east of the Hudson, essentially. Maybe too much detail. I'm not sure how deep you guys want me to go.
That's the demand side. What about the supply side?
That's the supply side.
So the demand side is Ukraine's going to, or Europe's going to compete with us on U.S. gas. But is there going to be more U.S. gas available?
That may be true. We're kind of at capacity. It's a catch-22. The reason why we produce so much natural gas now is because we do what we call fracking. Hydraulic fracturing, which releases, it was originally intended for oil drilling, but as a byproduct, they found a lot of natural gas comes out when you fracture the ground below us and release those oils and gases. It's a very expensive process. So in order for that production to maintain its high levels, pricing has to be high. And also, conversely, money has to be cheap. Right now, really neither's true. Gas is kind of getting lower, natural gas pricing is getting lower, and money is not cheap. These producers essentially borrow the money when it was very low interest rates, and would take that money, invest in hydraulic fracturing, and ship it off. Right now, with the cost of money and with the lower cost of energy, you won't see much more supply. The economics don't work. They like it where it is kind of now, where it's, you keep the price relatively high, which is the only way you can make money to produce the gas the way that we can. We don't have those huge basins of where you put a straw in the ground and just suck it right up, where it's cheap, easy, Saudi Arabian style, not oil, but natural gas. So, you will see, obviously the current federal administration has made it very clear that they want to, increase drilling, and we probably will see some increase in production, but it's only being met by increasing demand worldwide. So the long story short is there's no indications of cheap natural gas coming to Connecticut or the Northeast anytime soon. Down to what the pricing we saw, the last time we saw very low energy costs was during COVID, and that was obviously because everything shut down, there was a ton of supply. So since then, it's really just slowly ticked up. A lot of requirements are included with this, a lot of grid requirements are included in these, that 10.89, just think of the energies like this, the rest is all these other charges that suppliers have to pay to the grid and to the utilities and to the state and to the government. For a variety of things, which I don't think we want to get into, but long story short, I don't think, there's no indications that we're going to see a huge drop off in energy prices, and there's really only increased volatility ever recently. So because of that, we think it would be wise to go longer term, and by longer term, I mean 30 to 36 months, just as kind of a safe harbor from what has been a very tumultuous market, and the tumultuousness of the market only seems to go one way. Unless we see another shutdown of the world, COVID, which I don't see, the risk is only in one direction, and that's up. If further escalations of wars in Europe or usually weather, energy prices can increase and can explode, but the chances of them exploding downwards are near zero.
Okay, 2 quick questions. I guess I'll just take it back to Clinton and thinking of my own house, right? You know, the CT Energy site where we're buying the supply at X amount, right? What's our history for the last 3 years in Clinton per kilowatt hour? Our contract now that we're locked into?
1089.
1089 is what we're paying now?
Yeah.
And are we in a contract, so if we end that
Ends
contract?
in May.
Into May.
Okay, ends in May. So at some point, you're looking to pick up from May after. And we're looking to essentially jump on the CCM contract for 1089, or 1089 for the next recommended 30 months is what I
If
see
you
on
do
here.
Nextera for 30 months, you get 10.1.
Yeah, so essentially, I didn't necessarily explain what I do very well. I kind of just went into energy. What I am is essentially an energy broker. So we go out to our supply base with Town of Clinton's, account information, which I have here, the usage and accounts that we've included, and we send it to all our suppliers. They get the interval data from the utility, so they're looking at your minute-by-minute usage, and they all send us their best quote. CCM does this for a fee, which is not included in these prices, which is 0.002 kilowatts per kilowatt hour, which is billed separately. That can be included in the rate. That's a different discussion. Either way, that's the fee. But yeah, so we're recommending what would be the yellow line. Nextera won the bid across the board, across every term, and all the suppliers we put on this list are reputable in our opinion.
So, am I doing the math right, that, based on our usage and the difference from NG, if that's how you say it now, we're talking annually, like $1,200 savings?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a fee to switch from one to the other, like a setup fee or anything like that?
No, they're the only fees that would be ever incurred is, I think what you're kind of alluding to, is early termination.
Right, so just like the CT Energy, right? If I want to switch my house from X supplier to X supplier, I can just go on and click, hey, I want 36 months from, or 24 months from for the best kilowatt hour rate. So essentially, the best kilowatt hour rate is a 36-month term at 10,361.
No.
No,
30 months.
30 months.
That's
30
weird.
months, okay,
30's
so
cheaper.
10,134.
Yeah.
So we could essentially lock into that rate, reduce our existing kilowatt hour rate, and is there a cancellation fee if we cancel within the 30 months? Okay, so your company's has a cancellation fee.
It's not us, it would be the supplier that you sign with does.
Correct, so, and Nextera Energy would charge us a cancellation fee if we backed out within 30 months.
How can that happen? I thought the state of Connecticut passed a law that there's no more cancellation fee, early cancellation fees in the state of Connecticut.
For residential.
Only residential.
Only residential?
Yes,
Okay,
which was a
thank
great,
you.
rule
Yeah.
change, because the industry got kind of a bad name. There's the bait and switch. You sign a low rate,
Yeah.
3 months later, it's double the price. Now they have a lot of different rules about residential that include that, but in this case, you have to consider when we sign a 36-month or a 30-month deal for 1.1 million kilowatt hours, that supplier is going to the market and purchasing that energy. So if you're to break that contract, you don't have to pay that total cost of 1.1 million times 10 cents times 30 months. It's more about what they take as a loss. So when you break that contract, they go right to the market that day, sell the energy. It doesn't really make sense if you broke the contract and went to if the market was higher, you wouldn't break the contract in that case, but then they would sell it at a profit. So you wouldn't be charged anything.
Do any of these contractors or that responded to the RFP or RFQ have no cancellation policies? Okay, so they all have cancellation policies. I guess that to me would be a factor in the decision-making of what company potentially is going to charge us the most in the event that we locked in or we wanted flexibility to move.
So all of them are going to be pretty much identical in terms of that philosophy of they're going to go out and purchase all that energy, and if you break the contract, they're going to take whatever remaining term is left, sell it to the market, and then if they bought it for, you know, $200,000, I'm just making up a number, and then they had to sell it for 100, because you broke it, and there's that $100,000 delta, that's what they're gonna charge you. Those numbers are not realistic, I'm just using a
No, I
fictitious
know.
example.
Yeah,
But-
that's an example.
Yeah, so it's really just essentially a loss.
So Brendan, the number is .10134.
No, so that's the problem. I think you guys are looking at the old one.
Yeah, we are. I'm wondering what the new number is.
Market has ticked up since that original quote. That's why I wanted to make sure I shared with these.
Okay, so 10269.
What is it?
It's up there, Dan.
I can't see that, man.
Yeah, could you, what is the
Nobody
number?
can see that.
10269?
Yeah, there we go. Right, yeah, right there.
10269.
No, I don't have it here. Right there, 10269, 30-month.
Okay.
NextEra Energy is your best recommendation.
And who you choose for generation doesn't have any implication on distribution?
It's actually higher. I don't know. The rate's higher for 36. I don't know
They
why.
do that because, you know, you're gonna be locked in for
Can
a
you just,
longer
can you
rate.
just, like, you talked about natural gas. Like, we don't have the pipelines here in Connecticut to bring in natural
Right.
gas. So what, that really would have no impact on any of this. I mean, our biggest generation of energy in the state of Connecticut basically is nuclear. That's what, you know, we generate here in the state of Connecticut. So you had this discussion, what does natural gas play into this?
Natural gas is actually the largest component in our energy mix.
Right, but we don't have the pipeline of that to come into Connecticut.
We don't have the pipeline, but we do ship it in, which is more expensive.
Right, okay.
No, there is pipeline infrastructure.
Yeah, but
They
we-
just don't pull
you-
off
they don't
that.
utilize it,
They pull
right.
the LNG out of
Correct,
Boston.
right.
Our pipeline may be sufficient for a portion of what we use natural gas for, but particularly, that's why you find in the winter it gets very expensive. Then you have the dual use where you're shipping, the pipeline is being used both to bring up people's home heating and, you know, business home heating and the electricity generation. Most of the generation, not the most, the majority of generation is done by natural gas. We still have a wide mix of natural gas, nuclear, oil, renewables, but natural gas plays the biggest factor.
I want to go to my mathematical genius over there, Chris. From going from 10,269 to 10,483, what's the difference in our usage and stuff? What would we save or increase?
It's just more.
Per year.
I'm talking on the sidelines here with Chris. I mean, sometimes, even though it's cheaper to go to 30-month, you might be better off paying a couple of pennies more and extend it to 36 months. Because you don't know what's gonna go on 30 months from now, you might get another super increase. I mean,
He's doing it.
I know I do this all the time at home I've been doing it for 20 years now, but whatever it's been that they allow this, and sometimes I find that for a penny or two more, if you go longer, it's worked out better for me, because sometimes.
He's doing it up there.
He's doing it up there?
Yeah, it's like a $3,000,
$3,000 a year difference?
$2,600 a year.
A year difference? All right. All right.
So it's an
Thank
insurance.
you. We'll stay at 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, looking for a motion to approve Titan Energy as the town's electricity supplier for a 30-month period at a rate of .10269.
Well, it isn't Titan.
It's NextEra,
It's
right?
It's
NextEra.
NextEra.
Sarah,
Oh.
but
So moved.
Yeah. Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
all right.
All right, number 7. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I'll sign. Yep.
Number 7, item appropriation and bond authorization of $1.6 million for the purchase of fire apparatus and equipment. Who is going to speak to this?
Well, for the last meeting, the council decided that we'd bond, so we need to approve the resolution, and that will send it to a town meeting, so.
Okay, should we
Do
ask
you have
Bob
any-
to speak?
About,
Anybody?
So there's
Questions?
It's here, right?
There's
We
not
read
really,
it.
the resolution everyone has to
Yeah.
read, so
Yeah.
it's really just making the motion.
Okay, all right.
Good.
So, let's see,
Come on, get on the.
I'll make the motion to appropriate and bond authorization of $1.6 million for the purchase of the fire apparatus and equipment.
I'll second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. All right, item number 8, congressionally directed spending update.
Okay, so my office was notified by Senator Blumenthal's office that all the CDS 2025 applications were, all those projects were not being funded. So we had in there a request for $500,000 for the downtown waste collection system and treatment facility design. So that project obviously has been not funded for the 2025 consideration for the CDS. They have given us an opportunity to reapply for the fiscal year '26. And they said we can just resubmit that application that we submitted for the 2025 for consideration. It is a very short window. The application has to be submitted by April 14th. So I need the council to approve me to reapply for this funding for consideration. They said that the 2025 projects would be prioritized for the fiscal year 2026 projects.
Now, this is the
Consider.
this is the $500,000
For the design.
downtown
Right,
design.
right.
So let me just say this, we don't know yet, because we're not gonna meet with WPCC until another month,
Right.
what really their priorities, or, I should say, the town of Clinton's priorities are.
Correct.
So, I mean,
But
we
this,
could be applying for a grant that we may never use, or
well, this is for the
if we're gonna
design
go up to
portion.
Rocky Neck, am I making any sense at all, Chris?
Yeah, yeah.
That, you know,
So,
Right.
right.
Go ahead.
So this is for the design. So this
Yeah.
would be to get the design, so you know if, for consideration of this project, you would need this to have an understanding of what would be encompassed in that portion of the project.
I guess, not to interrupt you, ma'am.
No, I understand.
But I guess my question is, if we don't go there, can we use that money to go someplace else? Or are we locked in that that's gonna directly always be just for downtown?
You're locked in for what the application is.
So I guess to follow up on Dennis's question, I know exactly what he's asking, meaning that is there any other priority bonding projects or capital projects in the outlay that would fit in the box of the congressionally designated spending? I realize it takes, it's a change from the application last year, right? Last year at the time, we applied for the 500 for review of the WPCC of the downtown project. But potentially knowing, how many capital projects in the capital process we have, is there any other shovel-ready projects that would meet the CDS guidelines that could be applied for?
So I don't know if you can change the application.
Oh, yeah, it's a new year.
So it would be, right, so I think we would have to just not apply at all
No, you
for the
could still-
25. I don't think you can submit a different application for.
You have to submit the same application from the previous year?
I believe that's what you need to do because the projects already, they're saying they would prioritize the projects that were on the list for 2025. So if we're going to submit a different project, I don't know if that would count.
Yeah, what I heard you say was that we could submit kind of whatever we want, but the
Right.
priorities would be
For the project,
previously
right.
So
submitted.
anybody that
So-
was skipped, that, they
Right.
would give priority preference to the
Those
same
that were-
exact project that was submitted the previous
Right.
year.
So if you want to change the project, then we wouldn't need to, the application portal opens, they have to be submitted by April 14th for the 2025 projects to be resubmitted.
Right.
If we want to submit a new project for the 26 consideration, that's a different deadline, that date hasn't come out yet, and we can put in for a different project.
Okay.
But because this one was already completed and submitted and had strong support, they're saying we can just move it to the next batch. So, I mean, this is why I'm coming to you.
So I'll make a motion and we can discuss it at that point.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're
good idea.
probably discussing it right
Yeah,
out of turn.
all right. I mean, I'll make the motion and then there's,
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
to
go ahead.
Reapply for the same application for the next year's correctionally directed spending funding.
okay,
Second.
all right. Discussion?
I just think we're locking us in, you're tying our hands up to a project that we don't even know is gonna exist. I'd rather take a chance because we might, or as Mike is alluding to, we do have other things that we could go to Congress for and ask for $500,000. You know what I'm saying?
Would that be for next year, though? Because this is,
Yeah, well,
this is this
whatever it
year.
is,
No,
I
this would be
mean,
for
but
next
the
year.
idea is,
This money we wouldn't get anyway for next year.
we're gonna reapply for something that's gonna tie our hands. Let me tell you, I think the library people, Maribeth is still here, so she knows. When they went out or had talked to some of the Blumenthal or Murphy about getting some funding through the congressional, they said, look, you're getting that $500,000 for your water pollution. Don't come looking for us for a couple of years. So that's what I'm trying to say is, we're submitting a request again for something we don't know really might happen downtown, because we may go up to Rocky Ledge or someplace else. That means that we're shut off. Once we, anything else that we apply for in the next couple of years, we're probably gonna go on the bottom of the list, because they're gonna refer back and say, hey, you got this $500,000 for water pollution, blah, 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 blah. In the meantime, we may be able to use that congressional grant for something else that we're doing in town.
I agree. I think Dennis makes a good point. I mean, the only thing we're losing is the prioritization.
Right.
So we have to just weigh that. Is the prioritization worth? Normally, I think everyone in this room would say, let's wait, because we're being rushed. There's other stuff here. We got time, right? But what we lose by waiting is the prioritization. So we gotta just weigh that. I mean, I'd be inclined to just wait.
It's a gamble, right? You don't know.
And there's no guarantee that we're going to get this either.
Right.
There's
Right, that's.
no guarantee we'll get a
We could
500.
also apply for a different project, correct?
We could,
Yeah,
but
next
that's
year.
not
With the next-
prioritization.
right.
It's your position.
There you go.
We could put
Without
in for,
prioritization.
Right.
right. But we have more time. This is
We
the
have a
14th.
library project, I
Right.
think, that's well in advance of anything else that we've done here. So, I mean, that's sort of a project that's sort of advanced. We put money forth.
Have renderings.
We have renderings, we have things. It's not a cheap project. I think the numbers are coming in more than
2
what we
million.
initially anticipated. I mean, my thing would be is if we're going to apply for a shovel-ready project. That's a shovel-ready project. The library is a shovel-ready project.
Would you be applying instead of this?
We would do a whole new application for the 2026 CDS funding.
I feel the same. I feel, if we continue to just put forward the same application because it's easy and we're going to get some level of priority, how fast is that going to move? Where, if you come back and say, the library is ready, they have renderings, they're ready to go, and if we can, we only get so many chances at CDS grant funding, right? Like, so many bites at the apple, and if we only get it once every 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, if this is our chance to prioritize and say the library is here, this may be a better project to fit the box of that shovel-ready project.
What about taking into account the consent decree and the fact that we should be doing something for water treatment? What about that point?
This isn't the entirety of the project, it's the design phase, which is ready to go, right?
No, and there's only so much funding you're gonna get. Like, the last CDS grant was the radio system, correct? Which was $500,000.
That was COPS, 600,000.
Yeah, but that was.
COPS grant.
It was
Right.
COPS grant, but it was a CDS funded through DOJ COPS grant. It was prioritized through congressionally designated funding. That's the last bite of the apple we got from CDS money. I'm saying if we're only gonna get one more bite again every 3 years or 4 years and they're saying, hey, Clinton, what's your best project that you see moving forward that's shovel-ready? I think the library is to me, the top of the list on the capital projects.
Yeah. Because we,
I mean, I don't think-
just, go ahead.
I don't think anybody's denying the fact of the WPCC. We all talk about it, we all know about it, it's been here forever. That's not a project that's eminent. That's not an eminent project that is ready to go. The library is a project ready to go.
Just that aspect would
Well,
be
the
ready, that's
design
all.
phase
I hear
is
you.
ready to go.
Huh?
The design phase is ready to go.
Yeah, but we don't have anything other than that. That's a bigger project.
Yeah, but you have to take a first.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess we can just take a vote.
The design's there.
Take a vote.
Because
But
that's what it
remember-
was, step one, right? Step one was just the design for it.
Yeah, if we wait until the whole thing is laid out, then we're never going to do anything.
Yeah.
But that's what you basically need to do. You need to know how the whole project is going to play out, because then you know how much it's going to cost.
You can't do that until the design phase is done.
But we've already set a money aside for them to do work on that, correct?
The 250.
Correct.
But I don't believe they can do it without this portion as well.
Right.
I think it's a combination.
Who's that? Water pollution?
WPCC.
Yeah, but the idea is, again, I go back to it, I'm sorry that this comes up before the water pollution workshop.
This just fell
Because
in
we
our
may
lap.
not even go down behind and do the town.
Right.
So it could
I
be
mean,
tabled till
ultimately,
after
we might
that.
decide that we're gonna go up the
Could be
Rocky
tabled till
Ledge.
after the
So we did all
WPCC
this designing downtown,
No, not for the.
which is not gonna happen.
Okay.
You can't table this decision because of the time frame to reapply. The window of time for the applications for the 26 CDS funding is not out yet. So if we decide that we are going to put in for a new project, it can be either reapply and just put it in as a new application for the design phase, or the library. We can make that decision, but the decision for for April 14th would have to be this application if you want to put it back in. So it sounds like that's,
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, there is. So, all in favor, and now remember the motion. The motion is to
approve it.
to reapply.
To
to
reapply
reapply.
under
WPCC.
That is the motion.
Right.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, opposed? Okay. Motion denies, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to apply for the other one? Can
Well,
make a
we
motion?
can we're going to have I'm going to get the information for the 26th.
You're still doing a presentation for the library, correct?
Library's on May 2nd, I believe.
Okay.
Or first or second.
What's the do you have the deadline date for the,
It wasn't on the website, just the April 14th was for the 25s. But I can reach out to his office and see
New
if they know.
projects for 26, they don't have a date yet.
okay, so they haven't
Right,
announced
so
it.
this, whatever we decide to do, we've decided to pass on the 14th date and not submit the same application. Okay, okay, understood.
Okay, so moving on to item number 9, Town Manager's Report.
Okay, I'll go through this quickly. So we did get the audits back, or the bids for the audits. We've had 2 firms, which I did share with you. We have met with Board of Ed, went over them. We are going to be staying with PKF, which is who we've used for the last 5 years. They came in 10,000 under the other firm, so just to let you know about that. Connecticut Main Street on Wednesday, May 7th. Carl Rosa from there will be giving a brief presentation on the program and a summary of the assessment that was completed for Clinton on economic drivers and development. MIRA, as many of you know, MIRA is dissolving effective June 2025. I'm in the process of working with Essex and the other towns that utilizes the Essex transfer station to come up with a workable alternative. I can't disclose figures right now because they're still in the negotiating phase, but the figures that we are working with are within the budget that we have set for tonnage in the 26 fiscal year. The unknown is the recycling. Currently, we pay 0 for recycling, and the range could be from 0 to almost 100 a ton. We are working collaboratively together to draft a letter to MIRA to get some funds to offset that. So we are hopeful that we will have a significant decrease in the cost of recyclables and maybe even a zero figure. So once that's finalized, I will give the council an update on what we end up doing there. Waterside Lane Bridge update and information meeting. This bridge is in the preliminary design phase. The town is participating in the Connecticut DOT's local bridge program to fund the reconstruction of Waterside Lane Bridge at the Clinton Town Beach. It is 100% funded. The new bridge will be designed by BL Companies with feedback from the town of Clinton. They're holding an information session at 5:30 on April 10th at Town Hall here to give the community an opportunity to see the designs that they're coming up with, the first look at them, and get some feedback on what the design, how the design is received by the community, and give that information to the design team to potentially alter the renderings based on that feedback. So that is at 5:30 on April 10th here at Town Hall. Pearson School, the RFQ went out. The timeline is that there is a mandatory site visit for those who are interested in participating or submitting an RFQ April 2nd. Submission deadline is April 21st. Interviews will be conducted the end of April, beginning of May, and they will select a contractor on May 7th. On a personal note, the June 4th meeting is a morning meeting. I will not be here. My son is graduating from high school, and on that Wednesday, they're having the award ceremony and he will be participating. So I want to give you as much notice as possible that I will not be in attendance on that town council meeting. And that was my report. I'm a little...
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, the chairman's report, I think for the sake of brevity, I will not give one. So, council discussion? Any discussion? No? All right. Liaison reports? No? Great, all right. So, a motion to go into executive session and invite Attorney Kennedy, Attorney Ryan, Bob Tate, Chief DeMayo, Michelle Benavenia, and Mary Scatino.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, Jeff D'Onofrio, too, you can add to that.
And Jeff D'Onofrio. All right, so item number 14.
We're very close.
Motion to amend the agenda to act on the executive session discussion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. All right, is there a motion, Chris?
I hereby move to authorize the town manager to submit an application to CMERS for town of Clinton union police officers in accordance with the actuarial papers dated January 1, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Oof.